Hi, my name's Loydeen.
And I'm Heidi.
And we are
the U-Haulers. So we're here to talk today a little bit more about some of the stuff that we shared, or Loydeen shared, on her solo taping. We've had conversations between ourselves, obviously, for some time that we'll be kind of referencing and trying to, I guess, fill you in as we go, if they become relevant to today's conversation. I think our interest in sharing this is, one, if we don't talk about it, then everything else that we do right now is fake. So we might as well talk about it. And two, because we've talked for a really long time, and like one of my big complaints about like people that are on social media or people that do reality TV or whatever, that it's curated, and it's curated to, you know, make them look a certain way or look good or all those things. And we've, you know, I think you naturally, when you do these things, you know, it's like self-preservation kicks in, and you decide like, oh, I don't want to say that because it makes me look bad, or oh, I don't want to do that because we talk so much about compatibility that kind of is off-brand for us or whatever. And I think that this is important because I think that we really have tried to be authentic and connect with you all. And I don't think we're the only people on the planet that have ever dealt with this kind of circumstance. And I think we are dealing with it maybe differently than a lot of people would deal with it because of our different personality, whatever reasons. But so we decided to share it. I think in an effort to be authentic, but I think also in an effort to let people know that there's no right or wrong way to be in relationship. That's not true. There's no, that being in relationship has its own like internal rules, right? So if it's and challenges. So if it is your relationship, then you are able to run it in a way that is safe and healthy for both partners, right? And like that's kind of the only rule. So, clearly after watching Loydeen's solo taping, I think there were a couple of takeaways for me that I just kind of want to say from the beginning. And one is that I thought she was very vulnerable and open and did a great job kind of helping you all understand where we are to date. But a couple of things that I didn't think came across very well was that I feel like you've been carrying pain for 3 people, and because you knew I was coming on and would have the ability to speak for myself, I think it came across very much like, you know, it's the 2 of you that are going through this hard thing, and that it's been difficult and challenging for me, but basically that I was very permissive about it, right? And so I kind of just wanted to address that, right? That I think one of the things I've been really worried about with all of this is how people would see it, right? Our friends, our family, people that watch, that don't know us, that they'll be angry, right? Or that they will, they'll think of you as a cheater, or that, you know, that there'll be some kind of misunderstanding, judging us or whatever. And I think one of the things that I've been very careful not to do, or been very careful to try to do, is just to be as open to what's happening as possible. I think this happened to Loydeen, right? Like I don't feel like you went out seeking a past person from your life after we got married. I don't think that you know, I think it's important to make that distinction. I think that had I kind of closed it down, I think you would have handled that appropriately. And I don't want there to be this like backlash of like, oh well, Loydeen's doing something wrong, right? I also am worried myself. My first marriage had its struggles, and I didn't set as an internal rule in my first marriage that infidelity would be a deal breaker. And so infidelity was one of the reasons why my first marriage ended. My first marriage would have ended regardless, but I have kind of made promises to myself over time that I would respect myself in a way that was different from that, and found myself in this circumstance not doing that again necessarily, right? Like doing it, but doing it in a way that is way more painful than just being like, what? No, like this, you know, like you're married and this is it. And so kind of struggling with if I'm making the right decision, even in just kind of allowing this conversation or participating in it instead of just shutting it down. But I also think that, like, one of the things that was hardest for me to hear was that in participating in this discussion, I've kind of made some of the decisions harder for you, right? Like, if it had been, oh, okay, well, we're done then, right? That would have shifted. I mean, you would have been in a different decision making. I mean, okay, so I guess I'd like to start there. I think initially
I feel like we should interject something.
Go.
We haven't really talked about or caught anyone up on. They know we went away for a wedding, and they've seen or heard nothing about that. You talked about that a couple of times. So I think this might be a good time to fill them in on.
What happened?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, I guess what didn't happen.
So we got married twice. We had a legal ceremony here in California, and then we had a big symbolic ceremony in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic,
which was amazing, and we
perfect.
Yeah, Heidi had her dream wedding here, and then I had my dream wedding there, and they were both perfection, and we are getting all those things together to share. And the reason they have not been shared yet is that we got a really fun call from the state of California telling us that our marriage was not legal. That our amazing pastor accidentally put the wrong date on our
wrong year
on our marriage certificate, and so that so right now we are not legally married, and so anyways
we haven't filed the appropriate documents.
Yeah, we didn't do that,
and in fact I don't think we can file
we can't
those
anymore
documents.
We didn't do it in time, so it's a whole starting over process. So anyways,
so now we may have to have a third wedding.
Yeah.
Which will be nobody's dream.
Yeah, so anyway, so just to kind of catch you up on, since there was a lot of hype up to that, and then we've kind of held it back, not just from you, from all of our social media, and even the people in the wedding and all of our friends, like, it's just been held back for something that when it is official, then we will do the big launch for all of it. And yeah, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you had explained that we went through a personal, like a family kind of crisis.
Yeah, we also went through a huge personal crisis that we needed to deal with, and that took priority, so that also took a back seat. And
so it's been a really big first year of marriage.
First
year of non-marriage.
Yeah, basically 4 days after our honeymoon, all this started. And so, 4 days after, it was like, oh, this is real life, fucking life right now, and it's been
and real life like hard, right?
Yeah, real life like on steroids that most people don't ever go through in their first year of marriage / non-marriage or ever. So
anyway, it's not that we've been dealing with this particular thing.
No, this is recent.
We're choosing not to share the personal family crisis that we went through, because there are things that need to be sacred and private, and that is that. We are still working through it. We're believing that the best is going to come from it, but
well, and everyone knows we're parents, and kids come first, and everyone understands that. So.
Yeah. So anyway, okay. So I guess the conversation after the phone call. So she gets this phone call from this ex, and this is an ex I've clearly been aware of from the beginning. From before the beginning, since from like when we reconnected as friends. Yeah. This was the ex that she was basically like mourning and in love with when she first came to visit. Reconnected with me and trying to reconnect.
And then we got back together after that first connection.
Yeah,
and so broke up right before you and I reconnected again. Yeah.
So I mean, this has like been like just keep flipping through the book, right? And we just keep having these chapters. So it's not someone who I was unaware of or caught by surprise. So I think I was like, I don't know the best. I was really sad. that it made feelings resurface, and I didn't know how to assign, like, sad. I think sad is the fairest I can be, right? I wasn't angry. I didn't feel betrayed. But I felt inadequate, which is something that I think I struggle with personally anyway. Like, not enough. Like, oh, if I was enough, then this wouldn't be something that we would be dealing with, because clearly I'm not enough, or these feelings that are coming back up wouldn't touch us, right? And I think there is this, like, the music swells and you're supposed to have this thing, right, where it's like, oh, I found my person, and so everybody else just fades away into the background. And I wish life was like movies sometimes. Not all the time, in fact rarely, but in those instances, right, like, it would be nice to have that big music swell, and it's like, of course I eclipse all previous people in your life, and they would never touch the memories where, et cetera, right? And because that did not happen, I did struggle and do struggle with these feelings of, not being enough, right? And we've talked about before, our fitness and health journeys are different. We approach those things differently, and I have gained weight over the course of this personal crisis we've been dealing with, etc. So if I'm like, oh my God, if I hadn't gained weight, oh my God, if I hadn't, got aged, or, just all of the different, like, sort of surface things. And I think you just kind of keep chipping away at that during this process, right? Which we've dealt with and talked about and are still talking about and dealing with. But I think outside of, like, sadness and sort of personally directed inadequacies, I think my biggest thing was, we can make a rule right now in between us that we aren't going to discuss this, and that I'm shutting it down. I can get mad, and that can be the end, or we can just have really honest and difficult conversations and make sure that we're not gonna have this it won't be a future Heidi and Loydeen problem, right? So we just talked about it. And I think because of some of my feelings of inadequacy, I was like, I don't want to be the default choice. Like, I don't want to be the winner because she missed her opportunity, right? Like, I don't want to feel like Loydeen's personality is very anti-change. And I mean that in, like, some of the best imaginable ways. Like, she's so in the moment and so present and so capable of making magic and beauty in every moment, that when she's in that and doing that, it is where she wants to be and what she wants to be doing, right? But that bleeds into sort of being the force behind, like, not doing that thing anymore, right? So in this circumstance, I didn't want her to just be like, well, this is the life we've created and built, and so I'm just going to be here, right? And like settling for this life because we're in it, right? Because it is daily, because we're married, not married, because whatever, right? Because we have kids.
Because it's easier, because this is where I am, and this is our daily life and what I wake up to. And
yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting that you call it easier, because I feel like nothing about our life has been easy recently. And so I guess that's what I mean, though, right? Is, like, for Loydeen, making those changes, actually stepping out and doing something different than what she wakes up and does every day is harder than whatever hard she's going through in the everyday she's already doing, right? Yeah. But I think everybody wants to be chosen. They want to be their person's, oh my God, you're the best, whatever. And I don't get to have that feeling at this point. So I really pushed on this thing, like, how do I get to have that? Like, it wasn't me saying, like, what do you need to do to shut this off? It was me saying, how do I get to live in this marriage and feel like that I did win, that I do get to have you, that you do choose me above all others, right? And I guess I settled on, I'd rather tie for first place than force you to hide that somebody might actually have unseated me from that position, right? So by allowing you the space to kind of explore this and feel the feelings you're feeling and accepting the fact that like you're in love with two people, I guess that felt more true to me than like pretending I won somehow, right? That's not a game. I feel like I'm not saying it right, but like,
Okay.
My presenting these choices to you was less about what you needed and more about what I need to go forward in our marriage. So, okay, so am I talking too much? Like, do you have things to say? So, because I'm going to keep talking, so that... So I think for me, one of the conversations we've had in the last like week since you filmed your solo, we kept saying like we should just put a camera on, but I have aged and I've gained weight, and so I'm very self-conscious. So I did not. I was like, I have to put makeup on, I have to get ready. So I did not do those things, and we didn't film. But what? So what I think.
I'm just laughing because you haven't aged too. I mean,
you're falling off the camera. I don't know why you're doing that. So I think one of the things that you are missing today from the day that Loydeen filmed was I'd basically given her a couple of options, right? One, go. We end. You go. You do, because again, there's a honeymoon phase for every relationship, and if this was just like, oh, I just have to have one final goodbye, that's a much different concept, I think, than like, oh, I need to go and see if this would have ended organically. And so kind of figuring out like, do you need to see, if our compatibility and our life and this marriage is something you could replicate with her, right? And could do, and therefore maybe would want to try, right? Or are you going to just say goodbye? And I think there were those two possibilities. And so in the first one, it felt intolerable to me to just be like, I'll wait. So it was like, go, but we're done. Like, go and live this then, right? The piece that feels particularly unfair about that is that it's not just me, right? We have kids, and our particular kids would not welcome her back with open arms if they knew any of that. We would have to know between us that the relationship was over unless and until we rekindled it, but not do that with the kids. Like, so it's very it feels very complicated. It feels maybe like it wouldn't be possible. I don't know, right? So and the second option was go, have a couple of weeks, understand that you're saying goodbye, right? I mean, and obviously all of this presupposes that this person would welcome that. And then come home, right?